Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Hey, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about marketing, social, copywriting, and we will imagine the future that we will use AI to do all of that. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live Show. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Adi Mazor Kario, product innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And I have a very, very special guest with me. Hi, Kate.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy that you're here.
Same.
Kate Bradley Chernis is the co-founder and CEO of Lately. Kate, as we said, she's CEO of Lately, says that Lately is an AI that learns which word will get you the most engagement and turn video, audio, and text into dozens of social posts containing those words. Wow,
You
that
got
sounds
it.
really interesting. So now we have like what to talk. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're so invited to join the discussion and ask questions. Now we can start. I had a few talks about marketing, and it seems like it's going and each time and getting more and more complicated. So could you tell us what are the
Mm.
challenges that brands have when they face marketing, and why is it so hard?
Yeah, why? Here's what's really interesting, Adi, is the challenges brands have are the same no matter what size company it is, small, medium, or large. And this has been surprising us for years. I worked on a Walmart project a long time ago, and I was amazed that they were asking the same questions as like a mom and pop, you know, small business. And questions can be around cadence, for example. How often should I publish on Twitter? This is a big one everybody's really frustrated by. Or what hashtags to use. These kind of riddles, I think they're elusive because the questions we wrestle with is, what do I say and how do I know it's working? And part of that definition is, what does working mean, right? Now, with social media, it's pretty simple. Click or share. Those are the objectives. So if you know that's the case, you're going to back into everything you're doing around those two things. So I'll drop a couple of hot tips if you don't mind around
Sure.
that. So if your objectives are click or share, as a small brand, it's harder to get the click because people don't trust you yet. There's one exception, and that is how-to content, because it's very easy to, it's a trick. If the question is how to, the answer is behind the click, right? That's the trick. So that's a good one. But on the share part, the trick is to think about ego. People share because they get credit for what you've said, what they're sharing, right? So you
Yeah.
want to make them look good. That's what you're thinking of doing. And when you're writing social media posts around, like, how can I give somebody else the props for this idea? It's kind of like, when you were in college and someone shared a new record with you, and then you shared the record with someone else, and now you're the cool tastemaker, right? It's the same idea.
Yeah.
So those are pretty easy things to kind of think about if you break it down very simply. The problem, I think, is people don't break it down very simply. Marketers especially get so caught up in the numbers and KPIs that they don't even know what they mean, to be honest, right? And
Yeah.
when you're stuck in that matrix of spreadsheets, let's be honest, you're forgetting the basics, and the basics are words. What words work, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's getting complicated. We have so many options, and everybody's fighting for the attention of the end users or the end customers, and it's very hard to get this attention. So and you don't want to go to the extreme, so
Mm.
it's so challenging all the time.
Yeah, I've been testing a lot on LinkedIn to see what cuts through the noise. And some of it is about algorithms, of course. But here's what I've been finding. So general negative ideas trend very well. So anytime you are complaining about something.
Mhm.
People love misery.
Yeah. It's like
Uh,
all the attention is going there directly. Like we wired to get that, like if something is wrong. Wow.
isn't that interesting? And the fact that the algorithms are tailored to that is kind of a little sick, to be honest, but
Yeah.
it
It's
is. So that's
it's
one.
strengthening this very human trait and
Yeah,
making it more prominent for sure.
exactly. And then I've noticed that any mention of God trends high. So if
Really?
you're praying,
That
religion, God. Yep, isn't that interesting?
very, because like on LinkedIn, it's really surprising for me that you're saying that. I
Yeah.
thought it's less relevant, but I'm wrong, apparently.
Who knew? I just did some tests to see. Um, the other thing is, of course, short is always good. So the shorter the better, right? And I've been experimenting especially with content that has no attachment. So no links, no video, no image, and that also starts to trend pretty quickly. Um, I don't know why.
Which is really strange because they usually say that you need something visual in order to get the attention, and it's not only text, it's visual, and the right visual would do this, like
Yeah,
trend.
I think it's the algorithms again. I mean,
Mm,
what is a little bit silly about LinkedIn is, oh, the other thing I've been testing is personal content versus business content, right? So it absolutely boosts personal, non work related stuff up, which is like, what is the point, right? We're all here for the same reason, you know,
yeah.
um, and I don't understand why that is. So and LinkedIn is the space that I play in, the most. It's not, I play on Twitter and Instagram as well, but it's more my forte. So it's interesting just to experiment and watch. For me, I'm both building a personal brand as well as a company brand. Um, so, that's two different kinds of messaging, right? And I would encourage anyone to do that as well, especially non-CEOs, because chances are you're going to go to another job someday, right? And
Yeah.
you take your, God, I'm going to sound old, but you take your Rolodex with you. You take your network with you.
Rolodex. That's old.
I know. Remember those things, God.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's your value, especially if you're in sales, right? I mean, you want to be able
Sure.
to brag and say, I'm a social beast and I've got 10,000 connections on LinkedIn or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that we're living in this age that you need to be aware all the time. What is the persona that you're selling? And who is like this person that somebody's watching or seeing through these social media platforms? And it's so strange because in the past we didn't have like two, we had only ourselves. Now we have like one virtual, one real thing, and we need to manage both of them all the time. And
Mm.
it's like endless, and marketing is endless. And I think that
It
yeah,
is
like
endless.
in the past, I thought about marketing as something that, in additional to what you're doing this. And it seems that in the last like 5, 10 years, it's getting more and more of the attentions of brands, of companies that I work with, especially if they're B2C, for
Mm.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important for the
Agree.
success.
Yeah, I read this. I'm gonna have to try to remember these numbers now, but it's overwhelming. I'll try to pull them up in the background. The onus now on individuals to do their own marketing within a company has flipped. So you'll see this rise now in employee advocacy, for example, right? Social selling. Everyone is expected to talk the talk on social media about their company. Makes sense. I mean, if you're uncomfortable doing that, you probably should think about getting a different job. you know,
Yeah.
don't you
Yeah.
want to cheer your company on? I mean, I hope so. You spend all your time there. Um, but it's the demand from the companies on the employees is skyrocketing, and then the demand of software to include artificial intelligence to help companies do exactly this is now on the rise as well. It's basically the next 4 years we're seeing all this growth. So we're interested in that, of course. I mean, this is right in the wheelhouse of lately and what we do. one thing you asked in the beginning, I wanted to circle back to, by the way, was what the challenges? What are the challenges?
Yeah.
And one of the challenges of artificial intelligence in particular that I've found, and I've heard from other entrepreneurs as well, is we're selling against magic, Adi, right? People
Yeah.
really, they have this misunderstanding of what artificial intelligence is in the movies and what it is in reality, and
Yeah.
not what the movies are.
It's not. It's
No.
not. It's not. So tell me how do you see it? By the way, we got especially what you're saying, Katie
Oh
Jordan.
yeah. Hey,
She
Katie.
said, yeah.
She's the best. She gets it totally. Right.
She
I
s-
mean,
she says AI plus humans for the win.
for
That's
the
what she
win.
says. Yeah.
Yes. It's so important. Yeah, like we've seen that. So marketers are lazy, hate to say it, but we are, self-included. I mean, everybody's busy. We just want it done and we want to move on. I get it. With marketing, unfortunately, you don't want to take the work out. There always has to be a human involved doing some of the work. And part of that is because what makes marketing work, literally, when it lights up and goes viral, etc., it's because of usually some kind of visceral, intangible, indescribable thing happens, right? That can only be made by a human, only. So for lately, we actually require that a human participates and trains the artificial intelligence, because the difference in ROI is automation versus artificial intelligence results. So I'll give you an example. We have a sales conversion of 98% trial to sale. Let me say that
Wow.
again in case anyone missed it. 98%. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's because we only use Lately to market Lately. So we're dog fooding our own product, but we're dog fooding our own mindset, which is pairing a human with artificial intelligence so that there's a collaborative effort and then the collaborative result as well, right? It is
Yeah.
really hard to get people to want to do that, we find, because the they're the lazy factor. They want to push a button and walk away. And I'm working on inventing magic, Adi. And just
Yeah. Good
haven't gotten
luck.
there
It
yet.
sounds so complicated. And Kristen Shed, she really agrees with you, and she said, "So true. You still need humans." And most people, when you're saying AI would do it, thinking about, I'm not gonna find any copywriters in the world. It's all gonna be machines writing to themselves and answering themselves or something like that.
No, no.
Yeah.
It won't
It's
be. I mean, just like as we all found here in COVID land, right? Um, about humans needing each other in person and socially. Yes, work from home is great. I've been working from home for 15 years now, and I do love it. But that, again, that intangible, that the je ne sais quoi, about actually being in a room with other people, you can't explain it. It's beautiful.
right.
It's
Right.
necessary, and we're social animals. Literally cannot live without that, right? So I think that the pendulum always swings back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think once with artificial intelligence, in anyways, people are going to kind of be less mystified by it. That there will be a democratization and a demystification, and then they'll start getting comfortable with the idea that it takes two to tango.
Yeah, and Emma agrees with you too. Emma Sereni Johnson, the
Hey, Emma.
intangible human element, what can make marketing genius? So thank you for Emma and Kristen and Katie, everyone that is joining us. And the connection between AI and a human being is something that we're always like thinking in the back of my mind. I think in the last 2, 3 years, you hear so much about AI and the potential of AI. So, could you tell us about AI with marketing and creativity, and how do you see that future?
Right. It's a good question. With the creativity, I've seen a lot of those, like AI imaging and all that. And it's not my space, so I don't really know anything about how that works. But I do know about the writing component, and artificial intelligence writing fiction is very different than artificial intelligence writing social media copy. Now, I guess one could say that some marketing is fiction, I suppose, but I think for us, what we're looking for is a feedback loop. This is what all engineers are looking for, right? What are the patterns that can be replicated? So creativity is a hard one to replicate, because the whole point of creativity is to do something wildly different every time, right?
Right.
Now, writing a social media post, there are patterns within, because all brand voices have patterns and words and strings of words and different phrases. We can literally look at the feedback loop of what's worked previously and learn from it, right? It's right there. So
Yeah.
it's the math is a gimme. I think that's the thing that people forget, Adi, is that there is math
Yeah.
more or less here. It's a numbers
Yeah.
game, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not worried about the life of creativity and computers talking to themselves. And I mean, it just seems a little Armageddon-y, or it just seems a little over um, overwrought. I mean, everyone's worried about Elon Musk. Yes, that guy is a little crazy, no doubt about it. But Twitter has
Yeah.
a board. Twitter has a board.
Yeah.
The board is there to make sure that no one comes in and whacks it all up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just have to remember that there's
Yeah.
fail safes in place for to prevent AI takeover.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's when we're thinking about these capabilities, and you see that like when we're writing officially, what you have in what's the name of the company that rewrites your text? That has
Um,
lots of like all YouTube is theirs. I don't know how much money do they invest in their marketing these small videos before you start to see the video. You know what I'm talking about?
is it Jasper? I don't know if that's who it is.
No,
Yeah,
it's something. Wow.
I don't know. I don't know.
You see, and it didn't help because I don't remember the name.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not interested in also. I mean, I don't want to replace humans, right? That's like,
Hmm.
I mean, hello, kill the species.
Grammarly. That's
Oh,
the name.
Grammarly. Oh, well, Grammarly, yeah, they correct your poor grammar, which is great. And I don't think there's artificial intelligence in Grammarly, actually, that I know of. But again, it's patterns, right? I mean, it's the same way when Siri is pulling up full words with you as you're texting, because most humans will follow this word with this word, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of traditional. I find that a bit infuriating, by the way, because what it's doing is it is presuming that we speak in cliche. And in fact, if you watch any live, quote, live television show, they all speak in cliches. It's just a string of cliches.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer that children are learning that. I was thinking about I don't know if this is related or I'm just tangenting a little bit, but I grew up with Bugs Bunny, okay? Who I'm
Yeah.
sure is offensive to somebody now, right?
Yeah.
But what a shame. I mean, all that classical music that was a part of my life growing up, I learned from that show, you know.
Yeah.
And there was no the time that they used to take for what the character would say, right? No cliches there. And then, in fact, he was poking fun of cliches. And then even the time it would take to draw the cartoon, there were like multiple pages per each movement, where now comics or cartoons are just like a couple of screens. And it's interesting, like to see if that pendulum will be swinging back as well. I think I'm noticing it, right? I'm noticing that we are taking the easy way out with emojis, with Siri recommending words to us, with the way we draw our cartoons, with electronic music that no one has to play. But then at the same time, you see things like food went this way for a long time, right? It was way over into what's easy, what's fast, whatever. And now we're way over in this other side where where I live, it's $45 for any meal. And everything was picked out back like that moment,
Yeah.
someone's farming right to it. So I'm not worried about this stuff because it always comes back, in one way
Yeah.
or the other.
What you're saying is like we fear that something human or something which is spontaneous or natural in a sense is missing, so we're taking it back to that direction. And you mentioned Siri. One of the things that I've done in the past is to design voice design
Oh yeah,
for yeah,
cool.
and I was giving talks about voice design, the future of AI and voice, and all that. And it's very obvious that the kids who are talking to Siri or to the Google Home or whatever, they are getting these patterns of speaking, a way of speaking to someone who would not react. Eh,
Yes,
and sometimes they do use it in order to curse and in order to speak in a certain way that they would not do to a person.
it's true.
And we need to be very aware of it, that they're learning from that, and it's one directional, right? So although that they will get the answer, but it's one directional in relationship. And I think the same thing that you're talking about, like about food and about cartoons, is that we want something that might be more complex but more human, and it's more natural for us to do
That's
that.
right. Yeah, it's so funny. I have some friends, my friends' 12-year-old daughters, Lola and Tilly, and when they're talking, they'll do things like this. So that's an emoji, the crying emoji. So they're
Oh,
working in emojis to the when they're actually talking to you. Isn't that fascinating? You
yeah,
know? Um,
it's strange.
I know, right?
Don't you feel old when they're doing it?
I do. I do. I feel really old.
Yeah.
I am. I
It's like my daughter, she explained to me that in many cases you need to do that when
yes,
you're yeah, it's like, why would I do that?
right.
It's
But
the
I
same thing.
love the evolvement, is that the word, of language specifically, right? So the meshing of the two. That's cool,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Um, by the way, I use Dragon Naturally Speaking um, full time as voice activated software for computing. So I'm so aware of voice and sound and how it's working, that whole dynamic. What's been interesting for me, I've been using this for I think 10 years now. So I'm totally hands free. I don't type at all. And Dragon doesn't make any spelling errors, right? There's no spelling errors in my world,
Yeah.
but it does make like sound errors. So it'll confuse something that sounds like something else. For example, um, if I say VCs, it might mishear it as feces.
Which is not good.
No, I'm like,
No,
don't send that email.
no. It's good that you're verifying that this is what you meant, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's interesting too because I might say something like blah blah blah, and it's done this a few times. It heard it as the character from Arrested Development, Bob blah blah, the lawyer guy. It'll write that
Yeah.
out. So it's listening to it's they feed the brain cultural information, so it has like these reference points, which is pretty funny to me. But even this idea of nuance through that I'm involved in every day is working with a computer that's trying to understand me and guess how I talk, and you know it's it's does an okay job, but it can't replace a smile,
Yeah.
for
And you
sure.
just make Emma smile with the VC's example.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
So I want to go and just you could tell me about being an entrepreneur and starting an AI startup, and what are the main challenges with this very complex technology, and how do you overcome them?
Mm. The biggest challenge is me, right? It's getting like my head. How much am I going to let the negativity get to me? or not, right? And so the first thing is to surround yourself with a great team, and my team is the best. I can't live without them. I'm really super lucky. They're all incredible, very caring people, very caring humans, and very smart also. And they want to win this game, and they're willing to suffer. I mean, it's not an easy ride at lately. It sure is fun, but if you wanted to work somewhere where it's very calm and the hours are chill and you have tons of benefits, it's not my company, you know.
Yeah.
And certainly I do, and especially I'm 48, so like what it takes for me to survive every day is more than when I was 20, you know. I mean, I need more sleep, and I do need acupuncture or massage, or I need to go for walks and like just make sure my mental space is really kind of with it. I think that I totally obsess about lately. I'm I know that the answers are always right in front of me, and that's a good sign of an entrepreneur, right? Because I'm scrappy. I know I'm going to get it done. But the obsessive quality, I mean, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and just think about an email that I've written or need to write and be thinking over and over in my head exactly what I'm going to say or why I'm going to say it. Or if like yesterday, this chief product officer at a very famous company, no, it was the M&A guy, took a meeting with us, got on the call, and didn't know anything about us, wasn't prepared, had moved the meeting 4 times. I could see the reflection of his glasses of him reading my website as I'm talking, right?
Oh,
Yep.
not good.
No,
Not good.
no. And he's kind of also doing that, like, who's got the biggest balls at this table kind of thing with me, you know? And God damn it, Adi, like I should have stopped the conversation right in the beginning and said, this is going nowhere. We both know it. Let's just get off the call here. But I didn't. I was polite, and I let him frankly abuse me for half an hour, you know, and waste my time. And as I'm saying this and it's coming out of my mouth, like there's a lot of negativity there, right? Now that's not
Right.
the worst thing that's happened to me. There's been way worse, and that's not the first time that's happened either. It's happened a bunch of times,
Yeah.
you know. And it happens to women more than it does men, for sure.
Yeah.
But it does grate on you. I mean, it's just a constant avalanche of shit, right? And so picking my head up and smiling and believing that I'm doing the right thing, that takes some work. That is hard. I am not very good at it. I rely on a lot of other people to see the glass half full.
Yeah, I have to say that I hear what you're saying, and it really touches my heart because I'm working with entrepreneurs, and it's usually males, not females, and I totally appreciate what you're doing as an entrepreneur, for sure, as a female one. And I think that sometimes it demands so much more from our mental understanding of the situation or emotional capabilities, much more than what people think about the cognitive capabilities of an entrepreneur.
Mm.
And most people would say they need to be very smart and sharp and need to think about the details of everything and know everything. And usually this is not the case because most entrepreneurs, they have that covered. Yeah,
Yeah.
what they really need is the capability to stay calm and trust your instincts and know where you're going. And all the other things around surrounding you is so much background noise that you need
Mm-hmm.
to know how to handle all the time. And it's so hard. It is so hard. Most people, what they think about, they're thinking about, I know, about how much money does Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos has, but they're not thinking about all the no, and you can't and you shouldn't, and it's not the right thing that they heard maybe only in the beginning, and now
Mm.
they're hearing that less, of course. But it's like it seems that we have this um, it's like an image of what is an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's totally not related to the life of
Yeah.
someone who's doing that. Right.
It's true. And it's because we as humans like to science everything to death, right? We like to put it all in nice, neat boxes and check them off. And thanks to Shark Tank, they've done that with entrepreneurism. So that there's a bit of an epidemic. I was just talking to someone who runs an accelerator in Austin, Texas about this, where investors, venture capitalists in particular, um, are have so swung that way where they're they're only looking for what they've heard checks the boxes, as opposed to taking a little time to um, recognize the human element, right, behind that they're
Yeah,
actually missing out more than the average on the deals they should have invested in, right? And also damaging, doing damage to the entrepreneur in the process by asking asinine questions, right? And because your instinct is to answer the question or to figure out how to answer the question,
sure.
right? It's one of the hardest things I had to learn, and one of the best things I had to learn is which questions do you answer and which questions don't you answer, and even better, how do you tailor the conversation to make sure that they're asking the questions you want them to ask, right? That's the real mastery of these conversations. Um, the There's some telltale signs you start to learn. I call them time wasters of what those questions are. And it's not to say that you shouldn't have a dialogue with people who are going to invest in you. That's not what I'm saying, right? But venture capitalists, I've found, very often like to throw their weight around and ask questions guys they think it's the thing that they should be asking, rather than genuinely wanting to understand the company as a whole.
Yeah, I think it's related to listening. I
Yeah.
think that listening is so underrated in general, especially in men in VCs. It's like it's
Yes.
a very, very manly world. If we're thinking about entrepreneurship in general and VCs very, very specifically, I think it's like 98% or something like that, men. And when you're thinking about what a VC is doing, is actually risking money and want to win money. Uh, in that case, over the talent and time and effort of people who want to make it.
Yeah.
And you see that sometimes in the interaction.
You do. The conversation often feels so one-sided because they think we need them, but in fact, you need me, right?
Yeah,
Money is always, there's always money. Someone taught me that, and it's true. There is always money, and I can find it one way or the other, right? And it doesn't have to be now. There's like lots of other, there's venture debt programs. There's a million other ways to fund your
yeah,
company.
crowdfunding.
Crowdsourcing. That's right. Yeah. And sometimes you don't actually need money. You just need some grit, which I've got plenty of.
Hmm.
But that always, I had to learn that as well, is that this is because if you enter the conversation in the mindset of need, then you're never going to walk out with a win. You're putting yourself lesser than that
Yeah,
person there,
you're
right?
right. You're right.
Like, so that's not
Yeah.
great.
This is
And
something that I learned like way back when I was very
you did.
young in my profession, and I was a young professional. I didn't know much about being a business owner and about being whatever I'm doing. And I remember that I learned that if I come to a meeting and I have lots of projects and I have lots of things to do, I always win the deal. And
Hmm.
if I come to the meeting, a marketing meeting, and I want the business, I need it, I will not get it.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's something you put out around that. Maybe it's a
Yeah, it's
confident,
it's something that if you're sure you don't need it, so it's like the energy. You're not telling them, I don't need your business, I don't want this project, but what you're saying is, I know what I'm worth and I don't need it in order to get
right?
along. Like, if you want my talent and my expertise, that's fine, but that's it.
Right.
And it's very important to have this energy when you're coming, even if you do need this investment, and even if you do want something from them, if you know that you can handle it without them, you have like two more points just at the beginning when you're coming there.
Yes.
And another thing is very important is to understand what is the game that you're playing, you
Mm,
know?
mhm, mhm.
And I think that sometimes women are not that good in understanding the game, so they could learn it, but usually they come like in a delay. They're starting to learn it when they're like grown-ups and kids.
Yes.
My 16 years old, he knows lots of things about competition and
Mm,
about rivalry and about getting like what you want much
mm.
more than me, and he's much younger than me, right?
Interesting. Yeah, it's just part of part of the culture.
It's part of the way that he relates. I will tell you something that comes to my mind. He went to play basketball with his friends,
Hmm.
and from the beginning they said who the one who's going to lose, he's going to pay money for the one who is going to win, of course. But that was the easy part. Okay, the big thing is that he will take a picture of the winner stepping on the
Oh,
one who lost,
oh
and
my
it will
God.
be his profile picture for 2 weeks, right?
So good.
and
About the
and
ego, the
I
ego.
never thought about it. Like, how did you come
Wow.
up with this plan? And
Yeah,
I don't know any girl 16 years old that would have think about like
that's right. It
this.
didn't occur. It wouldn't occur. Oh my God,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah. And now
Yeah.
when he would be a grown up, it will not be weird for him to have this, what you're calling, like, I call the shots, you call the shots,
Right.
this ranking. It will be obvious for
It's
him
the
because he
ranking.
was stepped on.
Yeah. So right. Oh my God. You feel that too. Like when you walk into a room, like I would go to a VC meeting and like not sit at the head of the table because I thought it would be rude. It's not my table. Right. That's like me coming over to your house for dinner and I'm right.
Yeah.
But that's a check against me, actually. And
Right.
especially if they
Right.
sit at the head of the table, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
this is that game you're saying. It's someone I think there's a TED talk around this where both female VCs and male VCs often ask negative questions to female entrepreneurs,
Right.
and the opposite for men. For example, if it's a man, they will say, how are you going to grow the company? And if it's a woman, they will say, how are you going to prevent churn? Okay.
Right. I think I read that.
Yeah. So the trick
Mhm.
is to hear those questions, but answer them with the growth answer no matter what happens, right? So if someone said to me, how are you going to prevent churn? I'll say, I'll be growing the company by, to $5 million in 3 years by these ways, right?
Yeah.
And that's a weird head trick, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And no one tells you these things either, Adi. You have to learn them on the way. There's not a handbook that says this is how you play the game, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, that the way that young men are relating to each other is a way to train them, like
Hmm.
when you have like two small lions, like puppies,
Right.
lions,
Yeah.
they have this rough play all the time, so they can handle the fight. I
For
think.
later. Yeah.
Yeah, so they know how to do it much better than when you're thinking about 15, 16, 17 years old
Yeah.
girls. They would be collaborating. They would
Yeah.
gossip, they would do things together, and they would not step on each other,
No,
not
that
virtually
sounds
enough.
so weird. Oh my God.
And
And they
I
wouldn't
think,
even let each other do that. I mean, like no girl would like be willing to.
yeah, why would you?
Yeah.
And I think that it's a small story, but I don't think it's that small. I think it's the way that they handle the world and the way they understand, like men in general, they see hierarchy, they see
Mm,
this pyramid, and women usually see a net when they're coming into a situation which is social.
mhm,
And when you're thinking about being the best or getting more money or winning, as a fund, winning more of the great deals that will come and be a unicorn,
mm.
it's a very specific hierarchy of a situation which is clearly not a collaboration.
That's right.
It's not a net and it's not equal. It's like they're winning and losing very, very obviously.
Yes. Um, so on that note, a male entrepreneur that I love and respect was helping me with something the other day, and he said, I wrote this down on a sticky note on my desk here. He said, the more you explain yourself, the less confident you sound.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I
Isn't
totally
that
understand that.
and that is such a woman thing. Every woman I know goes deep into the explanation because it's interesting. We think the story matters, how we got here. It all is relevant, right?
Yeah.
But
But I think that we have to admit that if you would say the same word as a woman and the same word as a male entrepreneur, you would sound and be related to differently.
yeah, you're a bitch.
Yeah, and
I'm a
if
bitch a
and
lot.
if you're a male, you know the details, you know how to go and go about and really create something. You're practical. I
Yeah.
know exactly what would be the way that they would see that, but they would see it differently, and it's a challenge to relate to that. So, what do I want to say? How do I want to sound? How would they see me? What
Hmm.
is the right thing to do? Would it if somebody, let's say, a man would say, I'm not sure, I would check. It sounds very humble and trustful. And I don't know what would they think if you would say, I don't know, I would
Right. The
check.
honesty. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a question. So we talked about the bad part of being an entrepreneur. So what is your favorite part of being an entrepreneur?
My favorite part is I think a lot about the movie Modern Times with Charlie Chaplin. And at the time, that was commentary on the factories, right? So they were building cars in this movie. And the commentary was there's no reward because you never get to see a final product if you're just a cog in the machine, right? It's the opposite for me because we can very quickly see what customers like or don't like, fix it, iterate, launch, and then do it again. And so it is so much fun for me to do that, in part because the problem solving is what I like to do, but it's also because of my team. I love working. Jason is one of my co-founders, and this is working on the product is something we do very well together. So there's a collaborative kind of effort, and it's rewarding. Like you're doing something together. The conversation. Oh, I got the idea, or we're just we call it vomit. So we just vomit out all of our bad ideas because someone's going to find the right one in there somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
that knowledge and that I'm going to call it the sort of liberation of genuinely being able to throw out terrible ideas with someone else, knowing that you're not going to be judged for it in any way, but that both people have the same end goal, which is to find an answer, solve the problem, right? I find that incredibly rewarding and fun.
Yeah. I totally understand what you're saying, and I think that another thing that we could see is the creation of something. That it was only an idea, and now it's like helping people do something that they need. It's so substantially like, yeah, I've done that. That's my creation,
Yeah,
and it's so much.
there's
You feel
pride
so
in it.
yeah, you're proud and content by but what you've done. Yeah, I've done that, right? And I think that is so important to really enjoy. You got these talents and skills and experience in your life, and just to put them like in the world, put them out in the world, and see what is like what is the possibilities is so, this is life, not just waiting for things to happen, right?
Yeah, it's very human defining, right? It really makes me feel as though, like, I really believe that the not becoming perfect, but the aspiration to perfect is a human endeavor. It's why we get up every day. Do it better. Get better.
Hmm.
Something better. Build a better AI platform. Get have a better body. Eat better. Have a better relationship with your husband. Whatever it is, like just do it better. And that's the stuff that makes life, as you're saying, right? It's very simple, maybe a little corny or cliche.
Yeah.
When you're not aspiring for, then you're, that's deep depression, right? Or
Yeah,
worse.
it's like stagnation. It's not moving. It's like starting to die,
Yeah,
more or
yeah,
less,
yeah.
I
And
would
that's when
say.
I know, by the way, always when something's wrong or something needs to change is when I can feel that stagnation happening. I'm a Capricorn, and so I hate change so much, of course, right? But I know it's the necessary thing to flip the switch. And like we just had one of our key team members, Lauren, who we've loved so much. She's been with us for 4 years, so she um, left the company to go to a much more relaxing job and more stable and better benefits and all that, and great for her. And it's always painful to rip the band-aid off, but then there's also a flashlight that goes on, and you can see suddenly all these things that you need to improve. There they are, and you wouldn't have uncovered that otherwise if this painful change didn't happen, right?
Yeah. It's like, I think it's Leonard Cohen. I'm not sure about, but it's Leonard Cohen's song. Like, there's crack in everything. This is how the light comes in.
I think you're
Something like
right.
that. I
Yeah.
think.
Chris
I
Chris
think.
Bro, are you out there? Is she right? He's one of my teammates. Oh,
Correct
yes.
me if
Yes.
I'm wrong. Go to Google and see if it's Leonard Cohen. So we could talk for hours, but I
I
want to
love
go
talking
back.
to you. You're so insightful and smart. It's refreshing too. I hope
Thanks.
we're helping somebody, Adi, because
I really do. I think that Kristen enjoys us. She says that we are the best and she enjoys our conversation. So at
thanks,
least
Kristen.
one and two of us is three. So it's a good beginning.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, we got to make it contagious, right? I mean,
Sure.
like I said, the tricks that you can't learn are you have to pick them up by either jumping in the fire yourself or someone telling you. But even the more people tell you, the timing might not be right for you to hear it, so it's so funny, the things that I actually learned years ago that I'm now able to be like, oh my god.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. And when it happens, it sounds trivial. It sounds like it doesn't matter. But
Yeah,
sometimes you go back to it and you say, "Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, right." Like
light
it
bulb.
takes time. Yeah, it takes time. Okay, so what do you think people need to know about AI? So we
Mhm.
said that they're afraid of it. So what do they really, and leaders are thinking about, yeah, we need an AI in whatever what you're doing. What do you think
Yeah.
they need to know?
I think so. Don't fall for trends, right? You don't need AI just because everyone's talking about it. The same way suddenly everyone needed a QR code back in the day, right? And I was like, why? Why do you tell me why? So first, don't get sucked into the hype. I think listening to what your customers are asking for, if you're shopping for AI, make sure that you're purchasing an artificial intelligence solution that actually solves the problem again. And so it's not just some problem you think, it's actually what they're asking for. Um, I think experimenting is important, Adi, right? I mean, whether it's AI or anything else, you want to be able to try it and make sure it's the right fit for what you're doing. I think going into any AI purchase specifically with an open mind. um, all AI is a startup right now. It's a new thing that's happening across the world. So, like, ours is learning constantly, right? We make mistakes all the time. It's part of what we do. And our customers are willing to be a part of this ride with us, for example, right? And the ones we're able to serve them extra super well because um, we have that dialogue going on. Now that's not a game for everybody. You might not want to go through the bugs. Right, you
I
might not
think
want to
that
listen
if you want to
to
be
that.
successful, you should really know how to listen and to talk to people and to it's not only listening, is what do you do with what you hear.
Yeah,
So sometimes it could just make you sad because you cannot fix it and that's it, right? But sometimes you could think about it. What is the meaning of this request? What do they really need? How can we make this better? Maybe not in this version, maybe in the next version, maybe
right.
like just to keep in mind what is important all the time, and focusing on these people that you're serving in the end is so much more important than focusing on the technology. Many people would think about the technology most of the time, and it's not enough. It is
Right.
important, but it's not enough to do that.
It happens to us all the time. We're constantly balancing exactly what you said, what the customer wants, which customer wants it, what our investors want, what we want, what has to take priority and why. And having that dialogue as a team is super important, and knowing, what advisors to pull in as well. Sometimes the customer is not right? It is the case. Or sometimes you don't have the resources to address a really painful problem. So you have no choice but to address another one that may not be quite as painful, but it's what you can do in this moment. So I've been so grateful to have people around me help me understand what is the priority, who to listen to, who not to listen to. And it's very frustrating because as we all like to joke, like every house is on fire and I can only put a little water on one of them today.
Yeah, I know. I totally understand what you're saying. It's like, I think that people just imagine what it's like to have a startup or have a company, a product company. And they imagine it's like, yeah, we're thinking what should we do? And we're just doing it. We're just, we could hire another developer. We could change the plans. We could change the application to do this and that all the time. And it doesn't work this way. You're prioritizing all the time and thinking what is more important, what would give us more benefits, what would be the future decision that would be the right one. And it's really hard to do product in general well.
Yeah.
And especially when you're a startup, and as you said, you have these investors which are major in that at that stage. Afterwards maybe they will be more relaxed, but right now they're very important, and they're trying to help you with their understanding of the market, of their experience, and what they're looking for. And
Yeah,
it's challenging for sure.
it is. And sometimes you have to say no to them too. Like you have to ignore everybody wants to give you advice, and you can't take all of it. And sometimes you just have to delete the email and not respond, and it's making these decisions constantly all day long that's the game. That's this particular game, right? That I'm involved in any case. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't wish it on anyone, by the way. you know,
What do you mean? I know, like a young woman
I
come
wouldn't
to
recommend
you.
this life. I mean,
No?
it's 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 a very specific temperament, that I happen to have. It's crazy. What I'm doing is crazy. So clearly I'm addicted to the high highs and the low lows. There's something about the ups and downs that my nature enjoys, but it's the stress it's just incredible. It's an incredible amount of stress from all manner of external forces, but then yourself also, right? I mean, we're still here. We've been doing this for 7 years, and a lot of people would have just closed up shop now, right? I think that I can see why if you're much younger, it's probably a little bit of an easier game because the tenacity required is just like, where do you get the energy? It's like, I can see why you would have a baby in your 20s and not in your 40s like that. I don't have a baby, but it sounds like really hard to me, you know?
Yeah.
um, and I'm glad to support anybody. I'm glad to support women or any underdog in their endeavor. But I would say before you do this, think really hard. This is not a glamorous life, Adi. Like, no fucking way. It's just not.
Yeah. So what do you think entrepreneurs need to know in order to have a successful company? What is like the number one tip you would give them?
Um, how much glass are you willing to eat and for how long? Really think about the answer to that question. How much pain are you willing to be in and willing to put other people in, and for how long? Because that's the real truth of what this game is. That's a huge part of it. And it'll happen again and again and again and again. You think the worst has happened? Not yet.
Not yet. The worst is yet to come.
Yeah. Sorry for the negativity, but that's the truth. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's like what you're saying is so. It's something that most entrepreneurs would like to say, but most of them would not say it this explicitly and clearly. And it's very brave of you to say it like, like in front of everyone and say, yeah, that's what it is. It's not what you think it is.
yeah.
It's really, this is how it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we could talk for hours, but we
I
really
love it.
need to. We could do it all again. Um, where could people hear more about Lady.ai and contact you?
Oh, thank you so much, Adi. So I am Lately AI Kately on Twitter. That's a great place to hang out with me. Of course, lately.ai is where we are online. Please tell me that you met me with Adi, and get ready to be converted, because we have that high conversion rate. So if you if you take a spin at
So,
Lately, just warning, and a human will probably contact you. Oh my God.
yeah. So first, I want to thank you, Kate, and I really enjoyed our talk, and we will surely do it again because it's so fun.
I hope so.
And
Thank you.
and thank you for what you're saying and for what you're doing, and I wish you lots and lots of luck, lots of luck. And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next week with another innovative, insightful talk. See ya. Yay. I'm Adi Mazor Kario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.